is After Hours with Amy Lawrence.
From Sports Radio 610 in Houston, after spending the afternoon on Radio Row, I told you that I might stutter. I told you I would be in awe, and I certainly was. And I warned them, too, that I was a little bit nervous about interviewing a pair of real-life superheroes, but Nate Boyer and Joey Jones were fantastic. They were articulate. They were honest, they were open, and they were more than willing to talk about anything that I brought up as we sat at the CBS Sports Radio desk on Radio Row. I'm excited for you to hear this conversation. Joey Jones is a former Marine who's also a double amputee. He was a bomb tech, and it was an operation gone wrong, and he lost both of his legs, so he's now wearing prosthetics. But he's also a huge advocate of wounded warriors and veterans trying to recover from the time that they spend serving our country. Nate Boyer is a name that you may recognize, former Green Beret, also a Seattle Seahawks long snapper for a time, and he went to Texas on a full scholarship even while he was spending his summers serving overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq. These guys are amazing for all the right reasons. After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio and CBSSportsRadio.com, had a chance to catch up with Joey and Nate on Radio Row, and I started out by asking Joey about being a Falcons fan and how he was feeling about the game.
Well, I'm 30, so I was there. I watched in '98 when Denver really tore us apart, and that was tough. I knew the Dirty Bird dance and the whole thing. But
I wish this was TV so we could see that.
Yeah, especially now. But no, I feel like these guys truly have earned their way here. They've spent years building this team to be here. Mm-hmm. Julio Jones, I think it said something along the lines of in 2013. They were happy to be in the conference championship. But here they feel like they deserve to be here, and they're going to take this one home, and so I have to believe them. Yeah.
What about you? So you have been working out. You were with the Seahawks for a little bit. I mean, you had to do the NFL thing. Who knows why with everything else that you've done in your life. But in terms of being, at this kind of a game, how does it feel for you? It's a guy who was doing that for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's awesome. I was I'm from the Bay Area, so last year it was my first year around the Super Bowl and all the, the events and all that stuff. And no, I love it. I don't really have a dog in the fight game-wise. I love the experience and all that. I mean, honestly, the game itself, to me, I would almost rather watch it with my friends on television, to be completely honest, because the fan experience in the stadium, it's a little more of kind of a corporate event, sort of, but everything, a lot of the fans come here to the city. They don't even go to the game, you know what I mean, from New England and from Atlanta in this case. And, like I said, I don't really have a dog in the fight, but Chris Long, who I'm doing Water Boys with, is on the Pats, so I would love to see him get a ring.
His first time.
As many
games as they've been to, this is his first time.
Yeah, this is his first playoff season, and I mean, I think win, lose, or draw, he's gonna obviously he wants to win, but I mean, I think he's excited to have this opportunity finally. But then also we were just talking about it. My old assistant strength coach at Texas is now the head strength conditioning coach for the Falcons.
Wow,
and he's absolute psycho.
You need to convert him by Sunday, Joey.
Yeah,
so he's on the
no, you know what?
side.
I would honestly, I love you, Chris. If you hear this, but I would love to see I want to see a new team in and win, and just like he was saying, they've been building this thing, and all those guys seem very passionate, and I had Tevin Coleman on my fantasy team. That kind of stuff, so.
I had Devontae Freeman.
Did you? Well, that was Tevin was out a few games with injuries, but that backfield is freaking.
Yes.
Well, just
exciting, man.
The completeness of the offense now. You lose a tight end and two more step up. Where do they come from? And so it's fun to watch as a fan. There's a documentary this year that went out, and I was featured in that about my involvement with NASCAR over a few years. And Tom Brady and Michael Strahan were executive producers. So I've got a very treasured signed Tom Brady jersey that says "To Joey," and awesome. So that's really important to me. Don't get me wrong. If any other team were playing the Patriots, I know that I'd be cheering for those guys. But I'm from Georgia. I'm finally living there again. I live 30 minutes from Atlanta, and we're going to bring this one home.
One of my favorite things is going to be the national anthem. So it's my first game. I've never been to a Super Bowl before. Even if it wasn't Luke Bryan, whoever it is, that moment is always one of the things that makes me, remember what it means to be an American, how proud we are to be Americans. And the two of you made some headlines earlier this year for different reasons. But I thought it was really neat. You both fought and served for our country. You both made sacrifices for our country. And yet you have different views on national anthem protests. So for the people who don't know, Joey, let me start with you.
Sure.
What was your response when Colin Kaepernick and others, it wasn't just Colin, decided not to stand and honor the flag during the national anthem?
Well, I think I'll start by saying I don't know that we have different views on the protests. We responded in different ways. And we communicated, Nate and I together, and then with Colin over it. I'm a pretty forceful guy. I'm a Marine. I'm a bomb tech. I'm not afraid of a whole lot that doesn't blow me up. And so I let Colin know on my platform through Twitter, hey, I don't have legs, but if you don't want to stand, bro, I'll stand with enough pride for both of us. Because to me, that national anthem, that flag, it doesn't stand for what we're getting right. It stands for the freedom and the people here who are willing to take what we're not getting right and do it better. The only country in the world wakes up tomorrow morning and says, we're not perfect, but let's try to be more. And so for all the grievances that were justifiable, I felt like standing twice as tall for that anthem, because we can go and attack those grievances and bring people that don't already agree with you to the conversation. I felt like that would be a better way to go. It wasn't the sitting down, actually. It was some of his comments immediately afterwards that bothered me. But then I read Nate's letter, and, obviously let Nate talk about that. And so I talked with Colin via text personally, and very cordial, very much showed respect for my service, and I appreciated that. He said kind of all along that it wasn't about military or disrespecting military, but about showing what he believed in. And that's awesome, but there's a place where that kind of stops, and it's no longer, you can't talk out both sides of your mouth with it, is how I felt. And I just wanted him to know that that's how I felt, and that he needed to bring guys like me, my family back in Georgia that had no clue about what he's talking about. Those are the people he needs to bring to the conversation. You're not going to do that if you spit in their eye, and that's what sitting down for me was.
You wrote a letter to Colin. What did you say to him?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, a lot of those feelings that Joey, the way he responded is those initial feelings that I had too. It was like, for me, it was more of just pure disappointment, because I think Joey grew up a Niner fan a little bit too. But
I did.
I was a huge Niner fan, and this was like my team, and Colin was the guy that I had pulled for since he came into the league. And but I wasn't really listening. I didn't really care. It was just my reaction of what I saw. You know what I mean? And I think that's a problem that everybody has. I mean, we make judgments in our society every day about everything, and you can't really help that. So I just tried to stop myself before kind of feeding into a lot of the hate that was going on, and that's where that really came from. I was asked to write an opinion piece by the Army Times, and I didn't want to because of that reason. I wanted to write something where I just was explaining where I was coming from and trying to communicate that I don't understand exactly where you're coming from here, and I would like to understand that, and he reached out, and we met, and we talked, and Joey reached out, and all these people that the coolest part about this whole thing is I had no idea. I don't think Colin had any idea how his situation would blow up, but I had no idea how this thing would blow up. But I also didn't realize, I think, the impact it would have just us sitting down and talking, even if people don't know what we talked about, that we actually just listen to one another, even though we disagree on something. That was what was important to me, and I think in that moment. Now, as far as what's happened since then, there's a lot of players in the league that are doing a lot, and I think that's amazing. But I want to continue to see that if these are going to continue, like the protesting, it has its place, definitely. I mean, that is a right that we fought for. But to me, it's empty without action, continued action, until the problem is fixed in that person's eyes, or at least improving. And I think a lot of people have sort of, they did it because it was popular for a minute, and now it's sort of gone away. And hey, everybody's got their own way of doing things. But just like Joey and just like I believe Colin and a lot of these guys, they want our country to be better, and they want us to hopefully come together more. That's my biggest issue is, when you're overseas and you're fighting for this place and you come home and it's so damn divided, and everybody seems to be just at each other's throats, and we kind of forget about the men and women that are over there doing that right now. And that hurts me. That hurts me, definitely.
Well, you mentioned the word action. We're going to talk about that. Let me reintroduce you guys for people who are listening. So Joey Jones, former Marine and badass, got to say, you are in town you and Nate are both in town with a lot of guys for the Wounded Warrior flag football game, which, got to tell you, I'd rather talk about that than another day of Super Bowl prep. But so that's coming up.
Super Bowl fun, though.
It is. And then Nate Boyer, who Green Beret, former former Seattle Seahawk. There's a long snapper, played at Texas. Can I just ask you this? Why football? With everything that you have done, and I was going through, I told my audience last night that I was interviewing a pair of superheroes. You guys have done, accomplished, achieved so much, and then you decided you wanted to play football. I mean, where did that fit in your scheme?
A lot of it was because I never did it, and it was like it was like a regret. No, but it's my favorite sport.
Have you jumped out of an airplane?
Oh yeah, lots
okay,
of
me too. All right, cool. We have something in common.
But like I just I was a pretty good athlete in high school, and I worked really hard, but I wasn't a great athlete, and I never played for various reasons growing up, and it just bothered me because it's my favorite sport. So that was part of it, and then also just I think Joey can speak to this. What you get, if anything, out of your service in the military, if you take it seriously and if you do something challenging like we did, is just a confidence in yourself that you can pretty much accomplish any mission. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You really believe you can go out and do anything. And I still believe that.
And it's addicting. You know, once you're doing that, you have to certain personality traits. Not everyone, not everyone in the military, but yeah, once you make that accomplishment you didn't think you could make, what's the next one? You know, for me, I walked here. Well, I don't have legs, so bingo. You know, like they're not hard to come by anymore.
And climbed up on this stage.
Well, exactly, and that's it. Like my accomplishments aren't made it into the NFL. It's made it to that building, but it's the same thing that Nate felt getting into the NFL.
A lot more than that, but okay. I know what you're saying.
You have a podcast now, Joey, so you're kind of a budding media superstar. What kind of things do you talk about on your podcast?
Well, I'm a news analyst for military and VA issues after working on Capitol Hill, and so that I realized between that and having acted for a minute and worked in NASCAR.
A minute.
You know, you get this little black book of not contacts but friends that are really important, you know, like Michael Strahan or Daniel Day-Lewis or Zach Brown, you know, and drop some names there.
Yeah,
and it's like, how can I take those names and do something more than just know these people or have a friendship with them? And I thought, well, podcast. Now, I'm not going to get those 3 names on there next week, but if I can build and get people like Randy Couture's come on my podcast, I hope you get Nate on later.
I'll come on your podcast.
Absolutely. People who have something to say or an audience of their own, and if I can put them in front of my audience, which there might be a little bit of group thought there in my audience, and if I can bring new views or reinforce things they might think or clear things up, why not? That sounds like the right thing to do.
Let's talk about the action part. Both of you, what I read, and I read a lot of columns that were written about you guys, some of your own personal perspective. Both of you have indicated your desire to give back, to help other veterans, to make sure that what you experienced doesn't go to waste and that it's turned around to help other people who are coming along behind you. How do you do that?
My biggest mission with that is I want to help other veterans realize and understand how valuable they are and how much they can help the rest of the world. I don't really want to give them anything, to be completely honest. I'm not about giving a handout or an experience. Like climbing Kilimanjaro is a great experience, but if we didn't have the clean water mission behind it, I wouldn't be a part of it personally. As far as bringing in vets to do that, I don't think that's a bad thing. But if there's no purpose aspect for the veteran, and a mission for him or her, and a way for them to give back and to continue to serve, that's what interests me, because I know that's what gets me up in the morning. Probably what gets Joey up in the morning, and all of us vets that are quote unquote doing well back home and have had at this point, I guess, somewhat successful transitions, is because typically we have a pretty large element of service still in our life, because that's who we are. Whether that's why we joined, most of us didn't join for those reasons. A lot of it was like it's the adventure, or we felt like we didn't have a choice, or it was a number of things.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things out there.
Yeah, people run to the military often,
exactly.
And because they're escaping something. That's common, and that's what it was for me. But once I became a soldier, or you become a Marine or whatever, you become a person of service, and you can't help it. And it's all about the man or woman on your left and right every day. And so once you have that inside you, and then you get out and you don't have that anymore, or you don't know what that looks like, that's when things get tougher, at least for me. I'm not saying post-traumatic stress and a lot of the experiences and things we went through over there doesn't attribute to difficulties, but I think the biggest issue is that purpose and that service. And so that's all I'm trying to do with the veteran community is push us to continue to find that next mission and keep fighting for something.
Your humor, I'm sure, must help a lot of people. Just even talking to you, you're very disarming. And so, I mean, we spoke even before we started recording about how, people make offhanded comments.
Yeah.
They compare their life to yours. They, that kind of thing. And they don't mean to do it intentionally, but you have such a great sense of humor. I'm sure that has helped you get through a lot of the challenges that you have faced.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's one of those things. It's like, I really appreciate you saying you did a little research and some of the things I'm up to.
Stacks of paper right
No,
here.
and that means a lot to me
grinder.
because
Love it.
99% of the world will meet me. I don't wear pants anymore because my legs really mess up pants. Even suits, I have them hemmed. It's not because I care about showing my legs off or I want to hide them either. It's because it's functional. But 90% of the world will see me, and their first thing is welcome home or did that happen in war? And it's like my legs start to define who I am. Well, I appreciate that. That was a big struggle I went through. But, man, you know what? That was 2010. It's 2017, and I got stuff to do today. We splice that together. And so the whole thing is, if I need to get past that awkwardness, past people not knowing how to handle me or not being able to mentally get past my legs, that responsibility is mine, not theirs. They're not going to figure it out quick enough. I live it. Disarm them. Let them understand, hey, my face is up here. Let's talk.
And you won't wear a hat over that hair.
No.
We've already found that out.
With these ears. And, so the whole thing, sense of humor in the military, I mean, not to go doom and gloom, but, when you come from a small community like the Green Beret or the EOD, the bomb tech community, where there are only a few hundred of you operating at a time, if somebody gets killed, that's a huge deal because you know who that was doing your job. But at the same time, this is a pyramid. So if somebody ahead of you gets killed, it's like, well, that opens up a spot for promotion. Now, do you really feel that way? Not at all. But if that's the way you can deal with something in that moment, so you're looking at it in those terms instead of that person you love and care about, then humor becomes this way of dealing with things anyway. So you carry that over. Sometimes people get our jokes. A lot of times they don't. But you joke.
That's okay. And that's okay.
All right, so you guys have stuff to do, not the other way. Stuff to do. I don't want to keep you much longer, but the reason you and I originally agreed to sit down and have a conversation is because of the climbing of Mount Kilimanjaro. So tell me a bit more about it. I know you've done it before, but what's the point?
I got the shirt on today, too.
I got the shirt to prove it.
Conquering Kili. It was started. This idea was started through conversations with Chris Long, who began a clean water initiative called Water Boys. Waterboys.org is the site if you want to check it out. And Chris had gone over there a few years ago, and he climbed Kilimanjaro, and he went over there with some other players, and they got to meet the people and climb the mountain. And he left, and he was like, "But what are we leaving them? Besides just a few pictures, and maybe we brought some gear." And he wanted to do more. He wanted to do something to help those people because it's such a beautiful country. The people are amazing. The mountain's incredible. I mean, all of that. And they don't have access to some of the simple things like clean water. So that's what inspired him to start this project. And then he reached out to me after I got cut, the day after I got cut from the Seahawks, actually, and asked me if I wanted to be involved somehow. And he's like, I don't even know what that looks like. He's like, I just know you've gone to Africa in the past and did some relief work, and I think that would be maybe something you're interested in. And so I thought about it, and I said, can it involve vets? And he said, I would only hope it would if you're going to do it. And I said, how about we take a group of vets up to climb Kili, but we raise money for these clean water wells in the process. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the mission. That's the purpose. That's why we're doing this, to help those people there. So we leave kind of a positive footprint or impact or whatever you want to call it. And so that's where it was born out of. And I went last year. I took a veteran with me last year, who was also a Marine, and he has a prosthetic leg as well, and he didn't make it all the way up because he had issues with it. He actually got his most recent leg about a month before we left.
Wow!
And so it was going to be tough either way. But we raised over $100,000 for clean water, and he got to go visit these people and to see the villagers, the Maasai warriors, like watch this guy get out of the truck and put his leg on and then go attempt. They were like blown away that he would even try. And so it was an incredible experience. And now, the plan is to go every year. I'm going again in March with a group. I think Joey's going to go next year with us.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we're going to do it every year. Chris is going with us, too, after he wins the Super Bowl.
After he plays in the Super Bowl?
After he plays in the Super Bowl.
We can edit. We can bleep that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so Joey Jones, podcast host, former Marine, Falcons fan, how can people find you on Twitter?
Johnny_Joey. And then hashtag Blown Away with JJJ is the podcast. But
All
Twitter and Instagram, Johnny.
I'll be expecting my invite very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Nate Boyer, former Seahawk, former Green Beret, now part of waterboys.org.
Waterboys.org,
Got it.
merging vets and players. Those are my two guys.
Also active on Twitter a lot. You like to go back and forth with people.
I get into it a little bit. I like the trolls sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh, can you please take mine?
I can
take
tell.
my
I
troll.
can tell when it's a troll that's strictly just trying to troll, or if it's somebody that like thinks they got it all figured out. They don't even realize they're a troll, but they are a troll. That's the troll.
Welcome to Twitter. At Nate Boyer 37.
That's correct.
All right, cool. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your service, and
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate
Thank
your time
you, Amy.
too.
I appreciate it.